Captain's log, stardate 2403.6. December 2025. We've decided to adjourn to the holodeck, which we are watching another one of these stories, adapted from the annals of Kal Hazel and crew. This version of the stories. This is one of the journal entry letters of Victoria Browne, the Kal Hazel's mother. Yeah, so we're watching those, and certain edits have been taken place. This is a recap featuring several cast people from the family. Well, not cast people, they're the family. Some have been omitted by their own request. Some have been toned down by their own request.
The ones that are still living would be embarrassed, so we didn't include a lot of the backstory of the current members. Yeah, so we left that out. It's going to be a rundown. It's kind of like a year in review of the year 2009. 2009. So it would be 2388 roughly at that point. So that's what this is. It starts off in October. It runs to December. In the first, 15 minutes or so. We've left out the inferences to the various cousins and nieces and nephews and such of Victoria in order to make the story more of a dialogue. Yeah, so that's kind of what it is. It's like The Blessings Deferred, but it is not a true sequel to that. It is just reading the letters without the deers. There are no deers. Some of the dates are mentioned. Some of the timeline is mentioned. There was a wedding that took place that's mentioned. Those are key events, that kind of thing. Yeah. And we even threw in a fort disaster just for fun.
I'll be playing her, which is kind of weird, but okay. So yeah. So I'm one of the Kims. That doesn't make any sense, but yeah, my last name is Kim. The story. Yeah, Fillette's the other one. Anyway. Anyway, let's get on with this adventure here. I'm Miriam Kim, MC Kim. Hi. Yeah. Playing this sort of a Pulaski figure. I'm Miriam Fillet in real life. Yes, supposedly in real life, even though I'm a character. And I'm in this too, playing a character. Well, several. And also, yeah, I'm going to be that. I was going to mention other stuff, but I just realized that's silly, because it's not about me. And yeah, I'm a character, not anybody that actually... Amalgamation character. Yeah, so as we lead into this, I'm in here too. I'm one of the characters. I'm the Foster. Yeah, Ariana Piedmont. Hi. I'm here too. Yeah, so let's see what's going on with that. And yeah, so there's fictional adventure semesters characters also doing. I think I was the Mural. I might be another version of Mural, but it was Mural. I was also a couple other people. I think I was one of the Woodses too, but that doesn't matter. Anyway, here we are on the set doing this other thing, and yeah, like she said, no need to go into the details in the other story, because this isn't connected. We're just on the holodeck. In 2403, on the holodeck. Yeah.
So I'm the only guy that's here in this, but kind of a funny story. Anyway, so I'm not going to tell that, because it's about the Victoria Vials, I guess. I will be narrating some of the male parts, but really, it's all this journal thing. Actually, a lot of the cast from the original Blessings Deferred 2 years ago are in this. So it's kind of fun. It's like a reunion. Ah, yeah. So far, so good. Yeah, so moving along. Let's get it started.
And I am Ezri Locarno, the Starship Chimera back then the Chimera A, and I guess the Legacy now. Yeah, anyway, so let's begin. And happy holidays, and Merry Christmas, and all that stuff. Yeah, let's begin.
Dun, dun, dun. Dun, 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 dun. The year 2009, June 19th. Dear Rosie.
I'm sorry that this card will be late, but your birthday kind of snuck up on me. I hope it's a good time, or it'd be pretty hard to top the wedding for fun. I had a wonderful time and enjoyed immensely seeing all of you again and spending so much time with your dad and Martha. As you know, I always see him once as I come to Duluth. It was a real treat to have all that access.
It was obvious that you and Victor were delighted with Melissa's choice of husband, and I second the motion. The kid seems to be off to a great start for their future together. All that work and all you did on the farmhouse was amazing. So glad that I got to see it firsthand. I didn't know that Aunt Anna had been invited to the wedding, or I would have worked at getting her to come along. Ron is dependent on her, and he never goes anywhere, so I probably wouldn't have succeeded anyway.
She was very interested in hearing all about it, and very much enjoyed my pictures, wanting to know who everyone was. Anna is a very gentle, laid-back person, and has a big factor in my life since childhood. She used to dress up on Halloween with your mother and I, and she was short and could pass for a kid, and we would have the best time. I always sent her a Halloween card. Also, she was so faithful to her visits to Mom. Mom was lucky that she had both Marge and Anna, so interested and devoted, helping someone to die peacefully. I was about an hour late getting home from our plane to fly around, some bad weather, to avoid it. The pilot kept warning us that things might get bumpy, but they never really did. I sure got the third degree going through security. They went through my luggage with some little white pad. I guess they were looking for explosives, I presume. Do I look like your typical terrorist or something? They also had it fit because my cosmetics were in gallon baggies instead of quart baggies. I guess that's a new rule, although I can't figure out the reason behind it. I didn't have anything over an ounce, so as far as I thought, that's what they were fussy about. The security guard said that the x-ray couldn't make out what the stuff was and to lay it on the belt next time. Here's a better idea. Put it in your check-through luggage when you come, and eat before you get on the plane. I did. They know. That's not what they used to give you. Anyway. June 26, 2009. Dear Marge. We don't have as much catching up to do this time, thanks to that wonderful wedding and my getting to see so many loved ones, and all in one place. But I still want to know that I'm thinking about you, and wishing you a happy birthday. I suppose you're going to do something special, although I imagine it would be hard to top the trip to Spain. Your boys are so grown. You and Mike, they never aged them. How did you do that? It was fun for me to be able to spend so much time with your dad and Martha. I would still be driving around the hills lost if we hadn't caravaned. I also enjoyed seeing a lot of Dorothy. She seems more settled and content. I'll join the Admiration Society of her new guy. It seemed very, very nice. Your dad spoke highly of him also. I was delighted to see how much Richard had matured. He also was very nice to me. I didn't think we'd ever have a conversation before. Ramona is a journeyman carpenter, although retired. But she takes some jobs and paint professionally. She offered to do it for nothing, and I'm going to pay her airfare anyway. It would cost me a lot more to hire someone else. September 21st, 2009. Dear Dorothy. Start with, then we fly back the afternoon of October 8th. Although Adam and I are flying into Duluth October 1st, I won't really have much free time until the following Monday. Then we fly back the afternoon of October 8th. It's been kind of a tradition for me to take Eleanor Leon for an overnight at the Black Bear, where we do October 1st. The next day, John and Marty Corpy arrive, and they're only staying through Sunday. I'm still close to both the Corpy boys. Donald is loaning me a car while I'm in Duluth, so we are going to get together before, during, and after the wedding. They will stay at Aunt Anna's, and Adam and I will move in once they're leaving on Monday. Until then, we are staying at various motels. We've been offered beds by various friends, but these are not people going to the wedding, and I don't feel right staying with people unless I can spend the evening with them first. I have too much going on to be able to do that. Thus, checking into a motel is more expensive, at least complicated. Besides, I'm going to win money. Yeah, I will be phoning your dad at least by Friday, October 2nd, to find out when I can see him. Adam really wanted to stay with him one night, but it's not working out. However, there's no way we're not going to get together with poor old Uncle Bill. He's always been called that, and I forget where he got it started. I think her dad used to refer to himself as that, and Adam kind of picked up on it. There are others that I need and want to see, but I will try not to make any commitments until I know I can see all of you guys. Marge usually invites me over to coffee, but I'd be happy to see her at the same time. Also, it works out that way. If you don't see your dad before I arrive, my email address is here. I'll be taking my computer. Tomorrow, Adam and I are flying to Las Vegas, returning Friday night. There are closer casinos, but Uncle Bob's sister, Martha, and her husband will be there during the time to set up their winter housing. For about 25 years, they've been leaving Chicago after Christmas and staying in Vegas until April to avoid the Chicago crappy weather. That may be the last year they can do that due to heart problems, so we'll get together. Martha was not in good enough health to come to the funeral, so she's been down about it ever since. She says she can't wait to see me as it makes her feel a connection to her brother. Also, we have always gotten along really well. She's the one who introduced me to gambling, which you may have heard I already enjoy. It was a good thing we sold the house. So in Rockland, near Sacramento, Rockland now has one of my favorite California casinos. On food stamps. If I had a house there, I'd probably be on food stamps by now. I do okay as long as the casinos are a couple of hour drive on a plane trip away. I don't know whether you know that the park has been renamed for Bob. It happened on October 17th, and we were excited about it. The park, being near her home, there's a street between it directly behind Martha's house. That is her daughter. The park right now is the Rise. It's been named for an educator by the name of Martin Murphy years ago. However, while we were still going there, Bob was able to drive in an emergency. There's something else here? I enjoyed meeting your boyfriend. He seemed like a good guy. Richard was fun also. Didn't like that we ever had that much conversation between us, but I really enjoyed it, and I'm glad that he's doing so well. We had a fire in the backyard 2 Saturdays ago. It's a good thing I was home, or the flames would have traveled from the A-frame playhouse, which is now used as a tool shed, across the dry grass. We had a drought there, and to the house. We had 4 fire trucks. It also burned our apple tree, which had to come down, and part of the lemon tree, which could be saved. I think someone from the park may have tossed a cigarette butt over the fence. At least last week, that's what we had to deal with, the homeowner's insurance company, and the demolishers who took away the A-frame. I could have had it rebuilt, but chose to replace it in one of those tough sheds, eventually. We don't need a playhouse anymore, thank God. Well, I have you to pack also to clear up Bob's bedroom. While we were gone, some workers are going to take down the crappy popcorn ceiling in Bob's bedroom in the downstairs hall. And 2 years ago, we had the popcorn ceiling removed from the living room and crown molding put up, and it looked nice. But there's asbestos in that popcorn, so we need to vacate. We will have the kitties upstairs for 2 closed doors, so they should be fine. Martha, my daughter, will bring the kids through the back door to feed the cats. I've hired Philip. I've never seen a kid so excited about feeding cats and clearing cat poop from the litter box. He may lose his enthusiasm. Sarah's plan B. October 29, 2009. Dear Anne and Ron. Even though I'm going to rush over this year today, it probably won't make it there for Halloween. It's been a crazy and difficult month, and I've just lost track of the days. And you know that I always try to write you on Halloween, because I have such nice memories of how much fun we had with you then. So when it gets there Monday, be assured that I was thinking of you on Halloween. In fact, I was thinking of you yesterday when I sent a package to Donald containing the TV ears that I'd promised to get you. I finally found them just yesterday, after trying them in several stores. They were always sold out, as they're popular. I couldn't do without mine. They allowed me to watch TV while everyone else is sleeping. Adam told Donald how to set them up, which is why I didn't set them directly to you. UPS said they will arrive in Duluth next Wednesday. I got sick the day after we returned home, really sick. Eventually I went to the doctor, and he thought that I had the N1H1 virus. He said it was too late to test for it, being the 8th day before I finally went back. I was feeling so lousy that I thought I might have pneumonia again. That'll be the line. The next one is October 30th, 2009. Dear Rosie, I bought this card in Duluth right after your dad told me about your 30th anniversary, but fate prevented me from being able to sit down and write it until now. We have a wonderful time in Duluth. Adam and I had breakfast with your dad and June Corpy, and I stopped at the UMD library to see Martha. His Martha. But I didn't get to see your sisters at all, although Dorothy and I spoke for a while on the phone, because we'd just been with each other at Melissa's wedding. Nobody got stressed out, and I couldn't get a visit in. I did try, but the schedules were hectic. I hope the next time everyone will gather in one room, and I can hug everyone and get caught up at the same time. Your dad was able to bring me up to date on what was happening with all the girls. The day after we returned to California, both Adam and I got sick. Me worse than him. The groom at the wedding was sick, and I think he shared. Not that I hugged him. Knowing that he'd had a high temperature the day before the wedding, Janice Slattery, Eleanor, and Marty and John Corby also got sick eventually. My illness was especially bad timing, although I was glad to get to enjoy Duluth, because Bob's park dedication was only a week away, and we'd done some painting right up to the night we left. We'd had the popcorn ceilings taken off the downstairs hallway, and in Bob's bedroom, and had to paint them. Once that was done, the walls looked crappy, but by comparison, so we had to paint them. Danny did some while we were gone, but there was still a lot to do, and Adam and I were too sick. They had to hire a painter. Then the house had to be cleaned, and I couldn't do it, and Martha was working, so he couldn't do it all that needed to be done. I'd been so busy nursing Bob the last few years that I hadn't had time to notice how much work the house needed. I ended up hiring a couple of house cleaners that Martha, my daughter, could be free to line up the food, etc. And the people invited to the house after the dedication. If there hadn't been any way to postpone the whole thing, I would have jumped on it. I finally went up to the doctor. He said that he thought I had N1H1, and not to expect to get well too fast. He was sure right about the last part. She had N1H1. She had the bird flu. The day of the park dedication was my first full day out of bed. I think I hid that pretty well, as you'll see in the video, although I warned people not to shake hands or hug me. It was day 8 by the time. The doctor said I couldn't spread it, but nobody wanted to get close to me, just in case. When we got back to the house, I got sat on the couch, and Martha and Yvonne took care of serving things up. We had a pretty good crowd, and they stayed a lot longer than I would have thought or liked. Well, and the day was successful, despite all of the bad odds.
Robert and Yvonne stayed a week. Yvonne is always a big help when she stays. Robert, being male, isn't so inclined, always a lot of work either. But it's just hard to have house guests when you're under the weather, and would rather go to bed instead of being up and sociable. Yvonne insisted that I rest every few hours. She's a sweetheart. She's taken to calling me Mom the last few years, and I'm having a hard time getting used to it after 45 years of being Vicky.
It was a good thing we didn't meet at the airport. After I got there, I didn't see how it could be done with the new security. Also, our flight to Duluth got canceled. We ended up going to Duluth on a bus after about a 7-hour wait, where they kept promising us every 15 minutes or so that our bus would soon be there, any minute. Next time, I'm renting a car. Besides, then I can stop and see you. Oh. December 16th, 2009. Dear Diane, Christmas will be low-key this year, and I'm not doing any cards, but I have meaning to do and write you for a long time, and Christmas seems like a good time. First of all, I want to thank you for all of your emails. I'm not on the computer much, but I get them eventually and do enjoy them. I made 2 trips to Minnesota, both for family weddings, which were nice and lots of fun. Adam came along on one of the trips. Other than that, 2009 kind of sucked. Well, there, I was going to see Joan Carlson and Didi. Joan just had a hip replacement in October. She's doing well. Didn't know how well acquainted you are with the branch of the family. They'd be daughters of your dad's half-sister, Leona Bellingham. Leona had 4 girls and 1 boy. I'm not in contact with the other 2 sisters, but the one boy, Herb, who lives in Idaho, I am at least at Christmas time. Also, he was nice enough to phone me when Bob died. Yes, apparently this has been heavily censored to leave out any drama. If there's any, just left it out. And as you can relate, the holidays are tough for the first year. We didn't even have a turkey. Went out instead to an overpriced buffet. I didn't have a tree up yet. If I get one, mainly for the children, it'll have to be a tabletop model, which he's been saying since the 1980s, and which I would place on a high cabinet that Adam's 2 cats would not seem to jump onto, as they do everything else. Bob was allergic to cats, and Adam always loved cats. He had a slew of outside cats that he fed and played with. Adam was so desolate when Bob died that I told him to go to the Humane Society and get a cat to distract himself. He came back with 2 black cats, Abra and Cadabra, and adores them, but they're a handful. As for Conan the dog, helping me decide on whether or not to get a dog of my own, he sure did. I got ADT instead. Even at $33 a month, it's cheaper to feed a whole lot and a whole lot less trouble. That's all I'm going to say about that. We all made travel plans to help us get through Christmas. Martha, Ian, and the kids are going to Disneyland. Adam's going with them. I'd rather be shot. Just kidding. Dan has to work. Bob's sister Martha and her husband John will arrive in Las Vegas, January 3rd, to start their annual 4-month escape from your lousy Chicago weather. I'll enjoy them for a few days, January 10th. Martha is the one who corrupted me by teaching, Aunt Martha that is, by teaching me how to gamble. Love her especially for that, and when I win. Have a wonderful Christmas with your big lovely family. In 2010.
So, some Dan and Pam stuff you can mention for clarification in the story. They were going to have a baby, and they were going to move back in. And Dan was working in San Francisco at KMBR. Yes, and then they were going to get married in 2 years. I can say that. That's not really controversial in any way. There you go. So it's 2009 in the story, December.
First of the Christmas letters. Christmas 2009, which means it's probably not yet Christmas. Christmas 2009. Dear Donald and June. This is to Donald and June. We're in Donald and June. Cousins. I think they're still living, yeah. I'm using snail mail this time because I brought this card. And might as well put a little letter in it with a Merry Christmas to two of my favorite people. I'm going way back on my cards also and sending them to special people. Christmas is understandably low-key for the year. We didn't even have a tree. If I get around to a last-minute tree, it'll be a tabletop model, so the cats won't try to climb up it. I have a cabinet in the living room that's about 4 feet tall that I could put on it. The cats don't seem to be attracted to the cabinet. They certainly are to everything else. I keep squirt bottles around for them to catch them on the table, the counter. They're very hard to train. Water, of course. Your Thanksgiving sounded fabulous. Good for Jessie. There's a lot to take on. Your mom told me what a good time they had. I just know your mom would fight those TV ears at first. That's television ears for the deaf. But I'm glad she's grown used to it, but not missing out on the dialogue. That's too bad about the telephone reluctance. I once had an AT&T phone with the amplifier built right into the receiver. I loved it. I didn't know that they made that type anymore. If they did, it would be just that one piece that I would get to replace it, and therefore, no hassle.
This is not every day, but twice last week Dan worked midnight to 5 a.m. in San Francisco and came home for 2.5 hours of sleep, and then went to his job at Staples. He's now working at Staples, so he quit the job at let's just say he had to leave the other job. Pam is in her 3rd year of college, some kind of engineering involving packaging engineering. Dan is only in the 2nd year. Communications is a tough field. He mentioned teaching as a day job. Perhaps the plan will be for Pam to make the family income first, since she is further along toward her degree. Both families want to help them get their college in. Well, okay. So that's all I'm going to... That's really not anything. That's just trivia, yeah.
Well, I want to hear all about your travels when you return. Martha, my daughter, Ian, and family with Adam tagged along to go to Disneyland after Christmas. Yuck, I'd be bored silly, especially since I'm not fond of rides, and Dan has to work. My fun will be January 10th, when I fly to see Bob's sister Martha, the other Martha, and her husband John in Las Vegas. They will have been there for about a week, as they start their 4-month escape from Chicago winter. They are fun people, and I'm looking forward to it. I decided I didn't want a dog. If Pam moves in here, I'm hoping that her father doesn't want to lose both the daughter and the dog, and that Conan, the dog, will go with the when Dan talked to me about taking Conan for 3 weeks, Pam vacationed, so it would help me decide whether I wanted a dog, and I decided I wanted ADT instead. In June, I tried the Coney Island recipe. June, that is the girl she tried it to, the cousin. I tried the Coney Island recipe. Donald and June are cousins by way of marriage on I believe, the Leone side. Yeah, I think that's okay. That says. I tried the Coney Island recipe, and thanks again. The flavor was good, but it was a bit watery. Perhaps I'll thicken it with a bit of cornstarch next time. Another drawback was that everyone was not home to eat that day. Adam and I took a few days to polish off the package of hot dogs. Crikey. I began to feel guilty about all the nitrates. I should never have taken your suggestion to freeze part of it, but Dan kept saying he wanted to try them. Then his schedule got really erratic that week, and he didn't end up helping us eat any of them. I'll try again next year. To plan better. Hope you have a wonderful Christmas. Okay, so there's some events that are, the same events.
Christmas 2009. Dear Janice and Tom.
Janice and Tom, the Slatterys. They are cousins. So to explain that, they're cousins on the mayor's side. They are indirectly on the mayor's side as a result of Victoria's father remarrying and having another group after marriage, just like her mother remarried. They remarried into this other family, and they are related to the directly to the Ullmans of Minnesota, of the Kensington Runestone fame. So yes, I just thought I'd throw that in there. Anyway, so this is who they're writing to here. That's an aside. Thinking of you guys at Christmas and wondering how their things are going. Our Christmas will be a little low-key this year. It's Thanksgiving, and I didn't even do a turkey. We went out to an overpriced buffet that night. We're not sure how you're going to want to do Christmas. We all made travel plans for after Christmas to help us get through the holidays. Martha, Ian, and family will go to Disneyland on the 27th. They've invited Adam along, and I'd rather be... She keeps saying that. She's not going to be shot. Besides, someone has to stay behind and care for all the animals. The price of doggy daycare being astronomical. Martha has 2 dogs, and Dan has 1, and Adam has 2 cats. In early January, Bob's sister, Martha, the other Martha, and her husband John will escape to Chicago winter and spend their 4 months in Vegas. I'll join them shortly thereafter for a few days. Dan doesn't get to go anywhere because he has take all the shifts they'll give him as two jobs. He's got two jobs. One at KBR, one at the other, and one at San Francisco. Okay, and one in Staples. That's right. Now to correct that earlier statement. Working extra for the holidays. Usually he's working extra for the holidays and Sundays, and also works at Staples. But that's, neither here nor there. Yeah.
I'm not going to go into how they're going to have a church wedding or not have a wedding for Dan and Pam. It happened, later. And it's just too much drama around that to go into that this story. Nothing bad, but probably just don't want to deal with that. So I'm going to go on to the rest of her letter, to the part where they mention the Slattery's mother phoned. It'd be Ann that called. Your mother phoned and spent a lot of time complaining about not being seated at the head table during the wedding. I'm sure that I'm not telling you anything you haven't already heard of. For times that I'm not positive, she didn't say no to mention it. I was left with the distinct impression that she'd already left the family, that she felt left out. I told her that Melissa's wedding, Victor and Rosemary, sat with me. That's referring to that wedding that previously happened. And she's referring to a wedding that's going to happen, so it's a little confusing, but no, she's referring to the one they went to, in Duluth where they went to. So I thought I would establish that. I thought you wouldn't read her this paragraph, but I'm concerned that it's bad for her condition to be so needlessly fixated on something that nobody can do a darn thing about at this point. Maybe she just needs to hear from Courtney how special she is. Good luck. Here. You guys have already earned your way out of purgatory and will go straight to heaven, but don't make it anytime soon. Well, except for the trip to Duluth. Well, except for the trip to Duluth and Courtney's and Melissa's wedding, 2009, sucked. I'm anxious for the new year. I hope that yours is good. Happy Christmas. Christmas 2009. Dear Rosie.
Okay, writing to another relative, her niece Rosie here. She says again, well, our Christmas will be low-key this year as Thanksgiving. We didn't even do a turkey. Instead, we went out to a buffet that evening. We're doing just a few cards. But I still want to say Merry Christmas to my favorite people. Except for Dan, who has to work. Made the travel plans for after Christmas. Help us get through the holidays. Martha, Ian, and the kids are flying to Disneyland, and Adam's tagging along. And she says again that she'd rather not do that. So I stay at home and take care of all the critters. Adam's two cats, Martha's two dogs, and Dan's dog, Floyd, as in Pink Floyd. It's a band. As for my fun, will come in early January after Bob's sister Martha and her husband arrive in Las Vegas, where they begin their full 4-month stay to avoid the Chicago winter. I plan to go down there a couple of times. If Adam comes with me, the second time I will probably drive, but for one person it doesn't pay, especially with a senior fare. I'm still comparing hotels. Also, while in Duluth last time, I borrowed my Prius. Yeah, I'm not going to go into the Dan and Pam pregnancy story. I'm just not going to do that. There's no reason to go there. I'm just kind of flipping ahead here. That's what happened. They're in the 20s. That's what happened. Grandparents are okay to live with. Lucky me. Pam's are in the Philippines. I'm going to be interested. I balk at babysitting, however. I've been there and I've done that. Apparently now they have childcare at college. Also, Martha said she's the grandma. I'm just the great-grandma. And now to sweat it, she will babysit. Since then they're losing a daughter. I hope her family will at least bring Conan the dog over to her house. Really don't like that dog. The wedding is now slated for February 27. Well, it's going to be further off. And for Dan's church, required 6 months of court counseling, 6 months of counseling prior to marriage. Do churches do that? I mean, you're going to tip the minister. Not that much. I'd say about it eloping makes more sense to me. But if her dad wants to pay for a wedding, it's all right with me. My contribution will be on the housing end. They insist that they want me to move out as soon as possible and to get their own place. I want to win the lottery. Chances are similar. Besides, Dan works at Staples. He got an employee of the month and he's just hired Christmas help. He hopes they will help him. Also, the Giants radio station where he had his internship has hired him for Sundays and affiliate for people on vacation call in sick. End of December, end of Christmas right here. You call me an update. May I would wish. I wrote you and Dorothy, because I think more recently. You can call me an update and Marge if you wish. Marge is her other niece. I wrote you and Dorothy first because since I'd over recently written to both of you with Dorothy's birthday letter. I figured the letter would be short. Of course I will write to Marge, but that's why she drew the short straw this year. 2009 was quite a year. Yeah. Okay. My love to Victor and all the family. Just something redeeming about 2009. Melissa's wedding. Getting to know the kids a lot better. So yes, Richard is actually Dorothy's son. So a different Richard than the other Richard in the cast. That wasn't, not in the cast, in the family. But gone for several years.
So, just to let you know, we're jump into the year 2010, all the way in August, to have it go on. Yes, something to look forward to in 2010. They begin to call Mom Gigi, and also Casey is introduced. Friend Casey from the school, and many years ago, written a letter to, and those will be different. They'll be different stories. So yes, yeah, the coming of all of that. As we do the mom version, the Christmas special of, yeah, this is sort of a Christmas special. But it's several years in the Christmas lexicon, let's call it.
August 24th, 2010. So we jump all the way to August. Rosie and Victor. August 24th, 2010. Dear Rosie and Victor. Well, Rosie and Victor. I'm sorry to tell you that I cannot come to the wedding as much as I'm looking forward to it. Until now recently I was hoping to somehow work it out. But this and the last quarter have presented some unexpected expenses, and I have found that my Sky Miles don't cover near what they used to, now that fares have rocketed, as car rentals have gone up, and the extent of the cost more than the airfare. Would you please convey my regrets to Josh and Nicholas? If I could have afforded it, I would have come for Aunt Eleanor's funeral last Saturday, especially since Aunt Anna is so down about being the last one left. Also, with Eleanor gone, there's nobody except Donald to break the tedium of being married to Ron. My words, not hers. I know that she and Eleanor spoke often on the phone, and even go gambling together, and once in a while in the senior bus. I know Anne was looking forward to me staying with her in late September before the wedding. I told her that I will shoot for a visit in the spring, after most of the rotten weather is over. It did nothing but rain for Courtney's wedding last October. Our flight to Duluth was canceled, and they hauled us up there by bus. I sure hope that Josh and Nicholas have better luck with the weather. I'll be with you in my heart in October. Nicole seems like a great gal. Sorry, happy Josh, and for all of that, for all of you. Please let me know what they're registered. Love, Victoria. All right, so clarify some of these characters that are being mentioned here. Yeah, Anne and Eleanor and them are on the Leon side. Eleanor was, and Anne were her uncle's, her uncle's wife. So they'd be, her Aunt Eleanor. Yeah, so the uncle's on the Leon side. That's what they are. And Ron Brode lived in a trailer with Aunt Anne, and they lived in it was a mobile home, yeah, near a pond, and so that's what that is. Anyway, I'm gonna go on to going on. The next date is just to make sure we got it all. September 3rd, 2010. Dear Casey. Dear Casey. Adam told me that you called. I think he said just to chat. He's not home now to question it. And I'm answering by email because I have such a hard time hearing on the phone. Also, if Barb or Jim sent any pictures, maybe you can email them. I hope you had an outstanding birthday. I wanted to do something special on my 75th, but I'm still deciding. Daniel suggested that we go to Las Vegas, which sounds like a wonderful idea, except the baby is still not sleeping through the night, and I can't see Pam letting him go doing it alone. Of course, maybe by February, Donovan will be sleeping through the night. Still, babies and Las Vegas don't sound too compatible. I won't go to Circus because of the kids, while I am busy cussing them out for being in my path to a machine. That is kids in the not her kids, but yeah. I can also recall other people's kids. I can also recall Bob and me and Reno taking turns gambling because we had our kids in tow, usually on the way to Minnesota in that damn camper, considering fun and adventure at the time. There were lots of things I wish I could still do with Bob, but traveling that way is not one of them. I don't know if I mentioned it, but the baby is not sleeping through the night here. They are staying with her folks, and I hope that continues to be the case. Living here or not, Dan still manages to cost me money. I've been letting him take the Prius for his 2 or 3 shifts a week in San Francisco, because his car is a gas hog, and he can barely afford gas for the Prius. The only solution is for me to help him with the gas deficit, or as Martha suggested, temporarily put the car in his name, and we did for the Mercury. That was supposed to have been temporary also, so I'm not that desperate yet. He does love the job, though. Last night he was forced to sit on the sidelines at the 49ers game for his work. He left walking on clouds, saying that he can't believe he's getting paid to do a 49ers game. Not paid much, but paid. Too bad they lost. I DVR'd it. I think I saw it. Dang it, TV. I can't recall when I wrote to you. Did I tell you about Martha and Ian are getting a divorce? All 3 of the stepchildren are here together in August. We had a great time. We seem to have grown closer since Bob died, and is the opposite of what you would expect, except that was in their lives. A good many years. Anyway, I'm happy about it. I've decided to go down that... Decided not to go on the wedding to Minnesota. There's another wedding. Another factor is that the weather is too crappy in October. It rained our entire stay last year. Plus, I always get lost trying to find 94 from the airport. My Aunt Eleanor died. She went fast, just within a week of a fall. But she did die from lymphoma. There was no way I could afford a short-notice trip, so Janice didn't expect me to come to the funeral. Janice is her mother, by the way. And then they're Ullmans, they're cousins to the Ullmans. If she had been up until the end of September, I would have gone to see her and also go to the wedding while I was it. So yeah, if she's okay, if Aunt Eleanor is related to her uncles from the other Leone brothers, then okay, so they're even closer related. They're not on Grandpa Mayer's side. They're on the Leone side. So the Leones are related directly to the Ullmans. They're cousins to the Ullmans. So the Ullman side. Or is it that Mr. Slattery's? Ah, that's what it is. Okay, Mr. Slattery is an Ullman. Is a cousin of an Ullman. So Janice, being a daughter of one of the Leone descendants, married into the Ullman family, right? Slattery Ullman. Yeah, that's how that works. That's how that works. Yeah. So so it is by marriage, but it's Janice. Yeah, the Ullmans are related by marriage that way. The Leone side, not the Mayer side. Anyway, I thought I would straighten that out, but it probably still confused. It doesn't matter, but that's interesting. Thanks for sharing. Amex would have been happy to finance its usury rates, but seeing her live would have been an overriding consideration. I did go in the spring, however, and I've had more Sky Miles and need to check on my Aunt Anne. She says she's the last one left, and she really misses Eleanor. Must not to have contemporaries left. She says she's the last one left, and she really misses Eleanor. It must feel odd to have no contemporaries left. Bob's mother, who was one of 9 children, used to complain about that. I hope things are going well with you. Say hi to David. David is her son? Yeah. David is his son. September 20th, 2010. Dear Dorothy. Dear Dorothy. I'll just say, Dorothy, I didn't know where the year went, but here it is. Time to wish you a happy birthday again. I hope you have a good one. That nice things happen to you in the year to follow. The wedding is getting closer. There's another wedding. That's the one she's talking about. It's hard to imagine Josh, a married man, but I bet he will make a fine husband. I certainly wish that I would be there to help celebrate and see all of you again. But first, I can't squeak it out of the old budget right now. I'm hoping to have accumulated enough Sky Miles to take a trip to Duluth in the spring. For one thing, I feel the need to visit Aunt Anne and Janice to make sure that they're doing okay. I know they're both miss Eleanor terribly. Do you know that Martha and Ian are getting a divorce? It's a friendly one. If there really is such a thing. At least it's friendly enough for the extent that he still comes to dinner on Sunday nights here, like a Grandma Leone for years. The immediate family has come to our house to eat on Sunday night. I never bothered to take the second leaf out of the dining room table, even though it takes up most of the dining room, leaving it in. When Donovan gets old enough to make number 9 at the table, I'll have to find another leaf. Right now, he's content to watch everyone else. A little savings that sets up on the floor. A little swing that sets up on the floor. It has to be... So this is September. So in September, Sarah's birthday, Sarah wanted chicken fried steak, which is very labor intensive. She usually comes over to help me before dinner because she wants to learn and Martha hates to cook. I won't be able to give her the day off, even if it's her birthday, because of what she chose for us to eat. It has to be pretty much done before you serve it. There's always a lot of chaos, especially due to late comers. Yeah, chicken fried steak. Pam and Dan, that's really hard to cook. Dan and Pam are not yet used to all of the organized and packing stuff required when you have a baby anywhere. They live with her folks about 20 miles from here. We see them about 2 or 3 times a week, though. Were they really 20 miles away at that point? Maybe they were. Maybe they were in, yeah. Anyway. I made apple pies from scratch yesterday, and they went over very well. At dessert time, I have a gadget where you stick on the apple and it turns a wheel and peels it and slices it and even cores it.
The most work and the trickiest is the pie crust. I tried a store crust once. The newspaper said it wasn't too bad. But they lied. Everyone complained. They also don't tell you when you buy these cans for a filled fruit pie that you need 2 cans. Dessert that Sunday was not a spectacular success. Cooking and trying new recipes has become a hobby with me. I may even have to give it a precedent over my other hobby, gambling, because my opportunities to cook come up more frequently than my chances of gambling. The casinos around here are at least 2 hours away, which is probably a good thing. In early October, I will meet with my in-laws, Bob's sister and husband, in Vegas for a couple of days. They'll be there for Chicago to set up their winter stay, as they do every year. Except this time, Martha Mossberger is recovering from a broken hip, and her husband has also health issues. So it's a sort of keep an eye on them flavor I'm doing for their daughter, Judy, who sincerely wishes that they would forget about Vegas altogether. They're in their 80s. I can't believe that I'm going to be 75 myself next February.
October 15th, 2010. Dear Pat and Jim.
I'm not. I'm Shea La Vie. But hello. I'm going to read something from here. Yes. Am I ending on the credits? I think I am. Yes. Dear Pat and Jim Browne, that is. He is a relative on Dad's side of the family from the Midwest, who moved up to Sacramento in the 2010s, and they are, before the 2010s. But she's writing to them here. It has been too long since we've seen you. Have you any plans to be heading this way in the reasonable near future? If not, I will try to talk Martha into a gambling jaunt, and perhaps we can meet at a restaurant, or perhaps even at the Thunder Valley or Cache Creek. Anyway, I'm going to try and not let the holiday slip by without getting together somehow, somewhere. Am I missing birthdays or anniversaries? October kind of rings a bell. And have I considered the effect of searching past emails and corresponding to the dates eluding me? I suspect that I've marked them on last year's calendar, which is in a box somewhere. I must have 100 boxes out here. I'm trying to go through one a day, but actually average 2 a week, because some paper or object in the box that I'm sorting will evoke some memory, and I just have to stop and read it. Adam keeps threatening to send my name to one of those TV shows about hoarders. But now that's a case for the pot calling the kettle black, of course. When it's my stuff, it's junk and 100% disposable. But when it's his, it's memorabilia and probably will be worth a fortune someday. And thus must be kept. Yeah, this stuff that I have currently is not a fortune. I'll chime in there. It's not. No, not especially if I paint it. Yeah. And it's not worth anything. Yeah. We finally dragged down the box of Halloween decorations. Last year, I just didn't care about that stuff. In fact, my sole decoration was to have lured Abra and Cadabra, the black cats, to the picture window to pose as black cats. Wait a minute. They are black cats. I do that again this year. They loved sitting there anyway. I opened the screen part, and they eagerly sniff freedom. At least it seems that way to me. But when the door is accidentally left ajar, Philip usually, they don't seem to want to make a run for it. Adam would absolutely go into orbit if one of those cats got out. He's still crazy about them, even when he's changing the litter boxes, which I've only done while he had the flu. It's in the contract. It's a contract? I really didn't mind driving the gas-guzzling Mercury of Dan's since my missions were all in town. And I felt it was helping Dan get an education since he's also in school part-time. I noticed some memory loss situations, but not as much as I expected from Judy's warnings. Every meal started with her commenting on, this is out of context here. I think I know what she means. It's my mother, I think I know what she means. Okay. I'm going to add, we're going to start with this. We're still talking to Pat and Jim. About Aunt Martha, Bob's sister. I noticed some memory loss situations, but not as much as I expected from Judy's warnings. Every meal started with her commenting in surprise that I took my coffee black, and how could I stand it that way, and that she absolutely must have cream and sugar. I think part of it was just social chatter. She and Grandma Knapp were never comfortable with lapses in conversation and had to say something whenever it made sense or not. I think part of that was just social. I think part of that was just social chatter. She and Grandma Knapp were never comfortable with lapses in conversation and had to say something whenever it made sense. I keep saying whenever, and that's not the line. Try it again. I think part of it was just social chatter. She and Grandma Knapp were never comfortable with lapses in conversation and had to say something, whatever, whether. God dang. Well, I think part of it was just social chatter. She and Grandma Knapp were never comfortable with lapses in conversation and had to say something, whether it made sense or not. But it was a little more than that. If they do get back to Vegas this winter, they are considering a trip up here to see Bob's son. And I'll give you a big heads up. Of course, I will make at least one trip there during their stay. And he'll be gone anywhere before Christmas in April so that I can steer them away from coming while you're gone. And Dan and Pam seem to be getting along better. Devoted to Donovan. Yay. Okay. I'm not going to go into this. Did I tell you Yvonne had an accident? She fell asleep at the wheel and messed up her neck? Yeah, Yvonne crashed.
October 26, 2010, Dear Herb. I think of you often and wonder how things are going. We're entering some of the tougher times of the year. October. Will you be visiting any of your kids for the holidays? If you be in the area, please let me know, because I'd love to see you. If you cannot come here, I would meet you at a casino in your son's area. I couldn't corrupt your sisters by getting them to the Black Bear with me, so I'll see how far I can get with you. That's a casino, by the way. I didn't make the Minnesota trip, after all. The timing turned out to be bad, as I was committed to meeting with Bob's sister and her husband in Las Vegas, and would have had to fly directly there right after the wedding. I decided that it was just too rushed. I planned to go to the spring and early summer, however, perhaps around Mother's Day. I was always close to my Aunt Anne, who is my mother's younger sister, and the last one left of the 6 siblings. My mother's younger sister, so Doris Bellinger, Mork's older sister. Okay. Anne had 2 sons, but no daughters, so now that Mom is gone, we have kind of stepped into the missing roles for each other. Another favorite aunt died in September. Eleanor had been divorced for my mother's brother Ben, okay, her uncle, and much of the family liked her better than they liked him, so he stayed around. Well, I have met Aunt Eleanor. She was really fussy and old. That's when I met her. That's how I described her. Fussy and old. Curmudgeonly, they would say. But she was more than curmudgeonly. She was a Karen. That's what they call it. Kids these days call it Karen. She was a Karen, definitely. Fussing about everything. Everything had to be proper. And there was an instance where there was a nose-fixing scene. I'll fix your nose, and then immediately did it. It's okay when I do it, I'm old. How old I was when that happened? 30 or something? Anyway. But yes, so back to the story. Here we have... Okay, her death, returning to Eleanor. Her death was too sudden for me to get to the funeral, but I still am tight with the kids, so I have many reasons to go to Duluth, and I always visit Dee Dee and Joan. Also from people in Duluth. I barely knew Jeannie and Bobby, also that's their own thing, but I would be delighted if either of them were around when I visited. My grandson, Danny's baby, is a delight. He's almost 4 months old now, so this is October, and blabbers back when you talk to him. The Browne BS gene apparently kicks in early. His name is Donovan. Danny has a drop of Irish in him, but he likes to exploit it. They're all living with his parents now, much to my relief. Dan works part-time at KNBR for the Giants station. He's walking on air about the Giants are going to the World Series. I hate to admit it. Don't tell Dan I said it. But the Rangers are a better team. Oh, but the Giants have good pitching, and I've been lucky. And you know, I believe in luck. Last year I didn't bother with the Halloween decorations, aside from encouraging Dan's 2 black cats. Or Adam's 2. Last year I didn't bother with Halloween decorations, aside from encouraging Adam's 2 black cats, Abra and Kadabra, to perch in the picture window, but that year I got the program because the grandkids just love Halloween. I'm less enthused about answering the door so often. Usually the family is working for booths at the church. The local churches for years have been sponsoring parties on Halloween or near it with the kids on the street. But it's Harvest Festival. This year, because Halloween is on a Sunday, they're holding their party on Saturday night, which totally defeats the purpose. I expect an onslaught, and I brought lots of candy. That's kind of what we do in case I'm guessing wrong. Well, at least Adam will be here to help me get the door. Since we're right next to a park, I don't dare turn the porch light off too early. Well, I better get this in the mail, for Halloween card will be late. Take care. Dorothy, my Christmas decorations are spread out all over the living room. It seems to me that I've just put those things away. The older you get, the more Christmases seem like they're back to back. How are you coming with your preparations? I see from the TV that you've already had plenty of Christmas snow early. I hope it wasn't too hard for you to go to work. Maybe you can work from home, really bad weather. Every morning after checking the news to see that we haven't been bombed or terrorist attacked overnight, I switched to the Weather Channel to see how the people I care about are doing weather-wise. So they didn't have phones with weather apps yet. You had to go to the TV. Interesting fact. The weather is one of the few good things about living in California. Our sales tax is... that doesn't matter. But our national sales tax... Well, no, that's yeah. This is no place to be living with fixed income. Yvonne has invited me to live up in Vancouver, Washington. And sometimes it's tempting. But I think that both Adam and I would find the frequent rains depressing. Somehow that gets snow, too. Another reason that I would consider it is that Adam might be better off living near Yvonne after I'm gone. He and Martha are not very close, and he and Dan don't get along too much. I worry about that. Support system. They don't seem to have much empathy for his disability. Yvonne, on the other hand, is a sweet, gentle soul, and has always gotten along famously with Adam. She has a son with a similar problem, so it understands. In fact, I think that Johnny's condition is worse in some ways. Fortunately, Johnny has found a niche and has a job. Tedious, but he doesn't seem to mind. Adam, however, with 2 college degrees, would go crazy doing piecework. As in piece mile work. Even the disability people don't make him interview for that kind of work. John is living on his own. He and Yvonne drove each other nuts. He doesn't drive a car, so Yvonne meets him once a week for grocery shopping. I love the wedding pictures from the wedding. She's ready to her niece. That Marge forwarded to me. They're great. I bet you all had a wonderful time, and I was thinking of you all day long. I had a good time on my Vegas trip, and I'm looking forward to another one next month. Bob's sister and her husband will arrive there for their winter stay, almost 4 months on, December 29th. I'm anxious to see them again, of course. Revisit some of my favorite video poker machines. It's not so exciting around here. When the Giants won the World Series. Danny still works at least 2 days a week for the Giants radio station in San Francisco, and everyone there was beside themselves with joy. The station is not far from the ballpark, and everyone who could get away tore down there for a huge celebration. Dan loves working at KBR. Anyway, he should have found a way to stay with that. That was the coolest job ever. Working at KBR anyway. That the week has something social. I drove the whole family, including baby Donovan, to the train, so they could go to the Giants' victory parade in San Francisco. There was no way to drive into San Francisco, so they planned to do. The freeways were totally jammed. The night to get to the train was blocked long, and I was happy to go home and watch it, and record it, in case they couldn't get anywhere near it. They did. Around 25 rows back. My seat in the couch was better. That parade was freaking awesome. Yeah. That was awesome. It's been forever since they won a World Series. It's been forever. Like forever. Dee Dee and Dave. Being vague about the date of this letter because Adam doesn't have the pictures ready yet. That I want to enclose in my Christmas cards. Sarah has to forward them from her camera, and you have no idea how hard it is to track down a 13-year-old granddaughter this Christmas season. Both the kids and Martha are involved in a production at church scheduled for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, both on the weekend and the next. Also, she's at the age where she's much preferred to join her friends after school than come to Grandma's house, as Philip still does. Since the hangout is the church coffee shop, hopefully she can don't get into too much trouble. Since the hangout is a church coffee shop, hopefully she can't get into too much trouble. All I ask is a phone call once she gets there. Seems like that last year I was meeting her and walking her home from school. This year it's not cool. Of course, nobody met me when I was 13. As for many years before that. It's a different world there now, and when I was 13, I'm not sure if I knew what a pervert was. Philip still wants to meet me, so Adam or I will do that. Philip's 10 at this point. Yeah. And then, of course, there's the matter of locating the cards that I bought half price for Christmas last year. Unlike some people who already have their Christmas decorations up, multiple red and green plastic crates all scattered all over the living room floor, and I was dismayed to find that my Christmas cards were in none of them. Yeah, actually, after Mom died, years later, we finally found the box of Christmas cards. The original box of Christmas cards. Found it. I've thrown it away, but I eventually found it. Anyway, so yeah. Italian gravitas. Well, I'm anxious to hear about the trip went. Somebody went on a trip. I know the weather wasn't too cooperative. My Thanksgiving turkey, which I'd brined in a big Coleman cooler, turned out fine despite the fact that it was done 2 hours earlier than the recipe said. Thank God for oven digital thermometers, or we would have been chewing on shoe leather. I lowered everything to warm and rounded up the family to come early. Since the football game was over, it didn't turn out to be a problem. What was a problem was disinfecting the Coleman the next day. It didn't help to read in the paper the next day that a butterball turkey works the same as a brined one. Of course, bringing salt is cheaper. It didn't help to read the paper the next day that that a butterball turkey works the same as a brined one. Of course, brining salt is cheaper. But once in a while, I get the crazy notion that my time is worth something. And Thanksgiving 2025 at the Barnes' house, they did a salt brine turkey. It was awesome. But yes. And that's in 2025. Anyway. But, I am so busy most days that I honestly didn't know how I squeezed in work before I retired. Of course, Bob was a big help, which Adam isn't. But I'm retraining him. Sometimes I have to remind him that I will someday die, and he will know squat about how to run a house. If he doesn't get his lazy ass in gear. Since he just turned 40, I don't think I have to worry about what psychological damage I will do to my child with such threats. She didn't really. Especially since such threat seems to be working. I can hear. Bob had $4,000 hearing aids sitting in a drawer practically since he bought them. And one day I got inspected to take the hearing aid place to convert them for me. They did so far $150. Far cry from 4K. Part of my inspiration came from the fact that my other hearing aid quit working, and with the hearing loss, the TV was loud enough to damage Adam's hearing. Yeah, it kind of did. Even though I bought the hearing aids at Costco, the audiologist fixed it also. So they couldn't clear it. But it turns out to have been the wrong kind of hearing aid for my hearing loss. Yeah, she didn't end up with Dad's hearing aid. She ended up with... They made different ones. They had to build new ones. Yeah, even Dad's wouldn't have worked. Yeah. And the hearing ears really weren't working. Robert's idea was sound. It was just only amplifying everything in the room. It was a sound idea. Anyway, so yeah. Let's see. I told you that there was because I was wearing the wrong type. It was a whirled, and I could hear my turn signals and forget to turn them off. Adam's not entirely happy because now I can hear what he's muttering under his breath. I have noticed that the world is damn noisy. So they're still not adjusted right. And peace and noise. Notice that the world is damn noisy. I do have the option of removing them when I want some peace and quiet. So it's win-win. Yesterday I visited one of my friends who was a nurse that I used to work with, and couldn't have seen since Bob's park dedication. She seems to have gone downhill in just over a year. So this is one of her friends at work, older lady. I guess it all falls into the count your blessings and quit bitching department. But that's the vision really affecting me. I'm going to try to contact her more often. It'll be a little bit hard, as she said her written driving test was due. She considered giving up her license. This will mean that I'll have to go and get her if she doesn't live in that close. She's only about a year older than I am. And now it's your turn to cheer me up and tell me that 75 is the new 60. I'm thinking I'm going to have to rent and set up a crib in the room for when Dan, Pam, and Donovan are in the part of town. As soon as I get the pictures, I'll shoot this along. I hope this all going well with you guys and the family. Have your card letter just came. Yours is my first card, not counting the one that I was handed Friday at the senior center by a friend. I sympathize with fixed incomes, so that was fine with me that she wanted to save stamps when possible. That would be, Libby. Yeah, not to be confused with Libby, but Pioneer Libby, but older lady Libby. That's who that was. She doesn't say, but it was Libby. Bobby used to love to go and sing along with the vocalists. The friend plays sax and is also the leader of the band, named Wally's Rascals. So Wally's the... I still have the Wally phone, the Mickey Mouse phone that Wally gave us. I still have that. It's from him. Wally's the friend of Libby. These two old people. Yeah, and I still have the phone. He was also an AT&T guy. Wally was an AT&T guy. Same as Dad was. The friend plays sax, that is Wally. The leader of the band is named Wally's Rascals. Pretty awful name, the Rascals part, I mean. I doubt that you would have an objection to the name Wally, because I suspect if anyone ever called your dad Wally, he would have a few choice words for him, all beginning with the letter F. Wally's girlfriend. Do you still call them girlfriends at 86? Wally's a little younger. It's named Libby. They have been engaged for 14 years, so it's like that. Yeah. It's like Guys and Dolls, basically. They've been engaged for 14 years, but Wally confided in me that he doesn't want to get married because her kids are too weird. There's probably also Social Security income you would lose if you remarry being part of it, which is also why my stepdaughter, Ramona, and her significant other will not tie the knot. And go gambling. Wally. She goes gambling. Wally, I go gambling with Wally, she says. Libby says she doesn't like to gamble, but I suspect she thinks it's a sin. She's super religious and is always trying to haul me back to church and bring me poems that she makes about Jesus that come to her in the middle of the night. The poems do, not Jesus, at least not so far. So about once a month, Wally and I go to a gambling den and sit together on the bus. Then we split up because he likes Wheel of Fortune machines and I like video poker. But at noon, we met at I think you mean the blackjack tables. We met at the blackjack tables until I lose 4 hands in a row. Sometimes, but this doesn't take long. And say bye, Wally. See you on the bus. I'm glad that your trip went well and the weather wasn't as bad as the TV made it sound. Mineral Point sounds interesting. It's on the way to Chicago. I'm toying with the idea of flying to Chicago to see Bob's family in the spring and trying to talk my cousin John, who lives in Zion, to drive up to Duluth with me. Zion, there's a Zion in Duluth, in Minnesota. Yeah. His van is probably a former Mormon colony. Probably. Sounds like it. Or Jewish colony. That's probably what it is. Being called Zion. Drives with, I'm just speculating on that. It doesn't say in the journal. It says a Zion. Yeah, there's a Zion in Jordan. So, it's not the same place. This may not be possible because his wife Marty just got a new job after a long drought of unemployment, and maybe they can't get away. But John, that is her cousin, John has to visit his mother sometime, and it won't hurt to explore the possibility. If it weren't for my glasses, which he thinks are hilarious, I don't think Donovan would accept me either. I'd see him more often than you get to see Sam. I'm so glad that he's all well and healthy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's. She's referencing people that are offspring of this person. Okay, I got it. If it weren't for my glasses, which Donovan thinks are hilarious, I don't think that he would accept me either. See him more often than you do when you get to see your grandson Sam. I'm so glad that he's all well and healthy. What a worry. I fret even when he gets a cold. There. We're talking about Donovan, not Sam.
Tonight, I will go with Ian to the church. Things that the family is acting in. That's the church play. Never be much to say, of course. They could change that, but I hear. But at least I'll be sitting with someone who isn't trying to convert me, atheist that he is. Well, I suppose that he could try to convert me to atheism, but so far doesn't seem to be inclined to do so. His attitude is pretty much live and let live, although he's very active, officer in AA. I think he skips the higher power part. Okay, got it. So that's a reference to Martha's estranged husband. Martha's estranged husband, Ian, in there. That may be a little confusing, but that's who that is. Good, yeah. All right, yes, yep. Okay. Jean and Jeanette. And Mary Jean, yeah, that's confusing. Shades of Christmas Past. I hope that this letter tracks you down. I've thought of you so often over the past few years, especially since you sent the packet. I fully intend to respond. Even began several letters, but I kept getting in the way. Actually, it was more the case that death got in the way. Bob took quite a lot of care and energy until he died April 29th of 2009. We've been married just short of 47 years. Bob put up a good fight, having been diagnosed in 89. There were repeated chemo and pneumonia to deal with, especially his last few years. He had wanted to die at home, and we were able to give him that wish. Except, on a superficial level, I have plenty of family, and in some ways always needed something. It took me a while to rejoin the world, or even to want to. I intend to mail this, even if I don't get the one word beyond this paragraph. You probably haven't heard from Casey. Does anybody ever hear from Casey? Now, she's always right there when I left her last. A couple of times a year, she'd phone. But my deafness and her soft voice The phone calls aren't what they could be. Yeah, she whispers. She's like modern characters on TV. She whispers. But I did the character louder here because he wouldn't be able to hear her. No. Not her fault, though. Yeah. Emphysema or something from all the smoking. Right now, she's in Portland living near her son, Michael. Once in a great while, we squeak out an email. Last February, I visited her there. My stepdaughter, Yvonne, and stepson, Robert, live in Vancouver, the city right next to Portland. I visited her there a couple of times prior to that. Once with Bob. The last time was extra special because Barbara and Jim were there with their spouses, and we had a wonderful reunion. Last year, Mary Jean and her husband drove up from Southern California. I had them and Cookie. His name is Cookie, but not to be confused with the person from John Waters. Not the same person. Ew. No. Don't watch those kind of movies. Actually, I have finally learned to call her Kathy. And Peter, over here for the day. The Barretts came around every 2 or 3 years. I see Peter and Kathy about a few times a year. The Tobiases, they live in the Sunnyvale area. Yes, they were the infamous first Apple II people family. It was different group, but yeah, friends from the school. All friends from school and nursing school and high school. Casey's a high school friend. And this Jean person, Mary Jean, and Bear is a high school friend. These are like her early high school clique here. Some of these guys. But I think this one is nursing school Jean, because she's writing as though she doesn't know them. So I'm thinking this is the nun one, the Mary the later lady. Yeah, I think that's who this is. It's got to be because Mary Jean's some of the Jean from school. Yeah, different Jean. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Jim. Oh, she's writing to Jeanette Michelle. That's who this is because she references the cats right here. It says, this is the cat lady there, Karen and cat lady. Yeah, it probably should be the other action figure, but that's fine. Just leave it. It's fine. Let's see. Last year, Mary Jean and her husband drove up from Southern California. I had them and Cookie, actually learned how to call her Kathy, and Peter here for the day. They came around every 2 or 3 years. I see Peter and Kathy about 2 times a year. Yeah, so I shared your cat information with my son Adam, who loves cats. Bob turned out to be highly allergic to cats, so we couldn't keep any. Although we did when we first married. I didn't know that his nose trouble was allergies, and he lived on Dristan. Adam would lure neighborhood cats with food. There was always a convention of them in the backyard, but we couldn't let them in the house. Even though as expected, Adam took Bob's death pretty hard. To distract him a little, I suggested he'd go to the Humane Society and get a cat. We ended up with 2 black cats, 7-month-old females. Actually, they were 9 months old. Sisters. Well, they were stepsisters, turns out. They're not genetically related. But yeah, they were kind of like litter mates. We kept their wonderful Humane Society names, Abra and Cadabra. They do their thing in the living room picture window at Halloween. Adam adores them. I think that Adam said that they were mostly Burmese and are not the kind of cuddly cat that I was used to, but each day they seem to grow a trifle more affectionate, especially Cadabra. Abra has always been super shy, but is slowly coming out of her shell, and will even share a chair with me on infrequent occasions, but always on her terms. They are more cuddly with Adam. I hope that this finds you well and happy, and that you write back. If you prefer my email address, Victoria. She gives out the email address. I'm not much of a computer person, but I check my emails a few times a week. So she's gone on to emails at this point. That's how there's more of these. Yes. Cadabra passed away in 2025, and she was 17. It turns out she was 17, although the tag thing in 2025 did accidentally list her birthday to September, and it was not a September birthday. It was like June. But that's okay. Cadabra, 17. Abra is still living, and Houdini, the 2014 cat, is still living. So anyway, so now next we have... Jan and George. Merry Christmas. So this annual update finds you both in good health. And nice plans for the holidays. Janice, did you ever see the endocrinologist? Endocrinologist. I said that right. Yeah, I didn't screw that up. We don't necessarily need to go into that, though. Last year was an improvement over 2009 for sure. July 2, Donovan Daniel was born, and he is cute. He finds my glasses hilarious, and I'll be in trouble as soon as his coordination improves. Nobody else in the family wears glasses except Adam, who finds no great joy in cuddling babies, so Donovan is not sure what those things are on my face. Incidentally, Danny only has about a drop of Irish in him, but always is exploiting it. So he did his grandpa. So St. Patrick's Day had been a holiday around here. I go along even though I'm only Irish in osmosis. And also, told it doesn't actually exist. Yeah, the legend of the potato famine is inaccurate. The Brownes with an E were here before the potato famine happened. Just so you know, just as an aside. We were not part of that. They were already here. Anyway, so. If it had the Freeses, they would have been here. But no. So yeah, anyway. Donovan is my 6th great-grandchild, as my stepchildren like to remind me, albeit the first one by blood. Robert's daughter, Lisa, in Michigan, has 3, and Yvonne's daughter, Rachel, in Vancouver, has 2. I expected the opposite, but the stepkids, may I still call them stepkids, when they are all now over 60, yikes, seem to have grown closer since Bob died. They told me that they appreciated the care that I gave their father. Of course, the grandkids living nearby get the most perks, but I'm told that the rest of them look forward to the UPS guy delivering Grandma's parcel at Christmas and birthdays. I think the kids love the mystery of something to open. The only time I sent gift cards was in April that Bob died. Oddly enough, all of Lisa's kids were born in March and April, so one big box goes. Lisa would totally plan that. Presently, Dan, Pam, and Donovan are living with... that's an aside. Presently, Dan, Pam, and Donovan are living with her parents and have been since shortly when the baby came. Living with us was not a great success, and both Adam and I are crossing our fingers that it continues to work out well the way it is. We see them at least twice a week. Martha does a lot of babysitting, and they often stay over at the house, which is just 2 blocks away from ours. And when they do is when Dan has an early shift or Pam has an early class in the morning. It's a bit crowded. Martha has less room than I do, so I'm looking for a crib they can use the spare room when they need to. Even though it was trouble adjusting to their lives here, I had nothing to do with the move. I think now that it was hormones. Adam and I came around 10 p.m. one night to get Pam's father along with Dan, moving all of her stuff out, and she and Dan had a fight. It was inconsiderate. She was leaving, I think she was missing her mother. So that's fine. That's not really a terrible drama. Let's just leave it at that. They were together again before the baby shower 2 weeks later. Dan told me, Grandma, I've got to be wherever the baby's going to be. I told him I understood, hoping that he hadn't heard my heels click. Dan thought he was keeping me from being lonesome when he was living here. And for a long while I welcomed the distraction, but between work and school and keeping up with the word of sports on TV and his laptop, it turned out to be the extent of his contribution and became resentful. Well, sort of. He and Dan had always had a sort of sibling rivalry. It was like a little brother. Little brother I never had. Totally was. I've always been a fanatic about putting the leftovers away before bacteria can grow on them. So at first Dan was afraid to eat anything there. Maybe he's a great immune system. Or he's learned to stay away from the creamy stuff. But I've heard no reports of foodborne illness. Yeah, I'm looking at like some of this. It's not. It's milieu. It doesn't need to be in there. I'm skipping a part. I hope I haven't told you this already, but Bob died at 2:37 a.m. And for the longest time, I was waking up at 2:37 or close to it, every often exactly. And then it was hard to get back to sleep. It was so weird. I was wondering if I was getting a message or something. The doctor told me that this was so common for long married people that they have statistics on it. It lasts for 18 months to 2 years. And it's wearing off, and although I still often wake up at about 3 or 4, it's 4. Just get up. Wow. I've gotten used to get up at 4:15 for work for 20 years. Still seems like a good time to rise and shine. Subsequently, something has to be pretty darn interesting to keep me up past 9 p.m. Something that's still waking at 2:37 p.m. on the clock, and I will just say, hi, Bob, and go back to sleep. Are you two back into your mile hikes? Maybe you're not, with all the snow. I'm sorry to report that Martha and Ian are getting a divorce. He's married to his job. Why he put up with his never getting home before 9 or 10 p.m. for years, it's a mystery to me. He was a good provider and decent to Dan, but that's the end of the list. They have a mediator instead of a lawyer. Let's skip that. Yeah. No mention of Ian later being diagnosed as on the spectrum. He's autistic. That would explain that. Yeah. Yeah, that's a little later because Dan still works for the Giants radio station in San Francisco 2 or 3 days a week. No benefits, of course, so no health insurance and no wedding yet. Pam has only a semester to go, and maybe when she gets to work it'll come with benefits. Of course, Dan's joy held no bounds when the Giants won the World Series. He was working the night it happened. The ballpark is close to the station, so after work it was an all-night celebration. The next weekend he talked me into using the backyard for another celebration. Pam's and Martha's yards were so small. And then I resisted, but then said, Grandma, we have to. We have the Giants ever win another World Series. When will the Giants... Okay. Grandma, we have to. When will... The next weekend, he talked me into using the backyard for another celebration. The next week, he talked us into using the backyard for another celebration. Pam's and Martha's yards were too small. At first I resisted. Grandma, we have to. When will the Giants ever win again? The World Series? Then we cracked up because simultaneously we had answered, next year. And we knew he had me. It turned out to be a little noisy, but no cops came. George, every time I see sequential video poker machines, I think of you. Next month, I'm going to Vegas to meet with Bob's sister and her husband. But those are not my machines of choice. The odds are astounding, but you did it. Apparently he won some money on those things. Bob's sister broke her hip during one of my visits last year. Just as we were walking along, guess what? They don't have slot machines in the ER. I looked. At 86, her recovery was slow, but she was determined to go to Vegas. 4-month snowbird thing, whatever worked. She resisted using a cane even though she needed it. Made her look too old, but I brought her a collapsible one of Bob's, which had worn spots where he held it. It told her that it would be like holding his hand. That did it. They were very close to her in life. Last February, Adam and I drove to Vancouver to see Robert and Yvonne. Naturally, I had to see Casey, who lived next door to Portland. I stopped before. Once, Bob and I, she first moved there. Okay. Last February, Adam and I drove to Vancouver to see Robert and Yvonne. Naturally, I had to see Casey, who lives next door to Portland. I had stopped before, once with Bob, when she first moved there. The time was extra special because her sister Barbara was there from D.C., as was her brother Jim from St. Paul, with their spouses. Except for being hooked up to oxygen for her chronic lung problems, Casey seemed fine. They all did. At a great reunion. I don't think I mentioned it, but the summer of '09, Mary Jean and her husband joined the Tobiases here for lunch. We had a great long day together. Tom Barrett and his sister, along with Kathy and Peter, that's Tobias, still rave about their visit with you. I think we were unique, since we were scattered all over, yet still have some contact with our high school friends. People that I've mentioned to are impressed. I think it's wonderful and very grateful that you two have stayed in my life. I love hearing from you. Have a faithful Christmas. Fantastic Christmas. Fantastic Christmas. Rosie and Victor. Thanks so much for forwarding the slideshow. It looked like a wonderful, fun wedding. I wish I could have been there. I thought about all of you a lot that day. So day, still picture for my bridal wall. How is Nicole's mother doing with her chemo? I imagine that today's newscast about Elizabeth Edwards is upsetting. I recall that when some prominent person like Jackie Kennedy, or even non-prominent like Ramona's father-in-law, passed from lymphoma, it would be really disturbing for her. Dan is still working part-time for the Giants radio station in San Francisco. It was a joyful time when the Giants won the World Series. Dan was on his shift that very evening. The station is not far from the ballpark, so everyone from the station got away fast as they could to join an all-night party at the stadium. A week or so later, Dan wanted to use my backyard for a Giants victory party, because both Martha and Pam had small backyards. I was somewhat reluctant, because Danny had a couple of parties in the past that got a little out of hand, no cops or anything, but I don't think the neighborhood was happy. He said, Grandma, we must. When will the Giants ever win another World Series? And then we both happened to say simultaneously, next year. And it cracked us up. So we knew the party. Actually, it wouldn't be that next year, the year after. But yeah, the party was a great success. After slicing and distributing several pizzas, I went to bed. There were some advantages to being deaf. Adam kept an eye on things, though. Dan promised to clean up the yard. He's worked at it, but still keep finding little pieces of orange and black crepe paper in weird places. Yeah, this is December 8th at this point, and it's still a mess. It was back in October. I'm holding out for him to finish the job, but might have to give in because the schedules are wild. We did get to see them a couple of times a week, or that helps with the babysitting, and because they somehow have college and work conflicts. They're both very busy. Pam has midterms now, and Dan's at a different college, but doesn't stay near the number of classes she does because she has to work. Yeah. They come to dinner every Sunday, and often think of Grandma Leone. The family gathers here for Sunday, except they don't serve spaghetti that often. Isn't Donovan a cutie? There he is playing with salad. Yeah. Hilarious as soon as he gets better coordination. He tries. Yeah. Okay. Uncle Bob had 4,000 hearing aids just sitting there, and I cobbled them. That's. Poor Yvonne, as the seizures weren't bad enough, a few months ago, she fell asleep while driving and hit a post. In the first place, it's hard to believe that she would fall asleep while driving, because she learned to drive late in life and is a very nervous driver. They wouldn't allow her behind the wheel for about 8 months. I would say never again, really. I feel suspicious she may have had another seizure. They claim to have some way ruled that out. Anyway, she cracked her neck vertebrae and has been in a body cast for months. Well, a neck cast. She's off work again, which really must thrill her employers. They think that Robert is living with her, or I'd probably have to go up there and help. But we phone often, and it's probably okay. Bob's sister, Martha, and her husband are going to the 4-month Las Vegas thing for Christmas. They mentioned that before. And we're trying to keep rehab after her fall. Yeah. Yeah, the cane thing, you've already been over that. Well, this Christmas is going to be a little easier for us than the last one. I had a cousin who lives in Boise now. Is from Coquet. His wife died unexpectedly of a stroke last January. This will be a bad Christmas for him. Is next on my card list. Last Christmas, he was calling me to see how I was doing. When he called again in January, I thought this was another check-in call, but he had his sad news. I think sudden deaths are worse. It was easy. At least we had time to say goodbye. I hope you guys have a fine Christmas. I know you won't have a fine weekend, because this morning predicted 3 degrees Sunday for Minnesota. Bundle up. I'm still going to try and visit in the spring. I'm still going to try and visit in the spring, and I'll give you a heads up, because I absolutely want to see you. I see this may have email again. I will try to make my plane reservations. Work schedule. Let me know what it is. I will try to make plane reservations around your work schedule if you let me know what it is. And I need help with directions. I also take the wrong way out of the airport also. Any clues there? It seems the lane I went to come up so fast and I miss it and I get lost. I'm not going to land at night. That makes it much worse. Marjorie. I didn't know how or why I should be behind with my Christmas preparations this year. I still have packages to ship to 5 great-grandchildren who live out of town. Donovan will be here on Christmas. I skipped the grandchildren. Nor do I exchange with the stepkids. They have made the request several years back during some financial downtimes, so except for their father, we have discontinued the gift hassle until they are actually visiting here at Christmas, which happened a few times. This year I'm planning to bake and send them my special banana bread because they were so crazy about it while they were visiting here this year. In fact, I had to bake a second batch before they left to go home. Sometimes homemade shouldn't make them feel more obliged, and they will know that I'm thinking about them. I hear from them once or twice a month by phone. Oftener if anyone is sick or in trouble. In fact, we seem to have grown closer since their dad died. I know that they appreciate the care it took for their father because they had all made it a point to say so. So she's talking about the stepkids and their children. Yeah. She's talking about Robert, Ramona, and Yvonne. To Marjorie, her niece. What's going on? I hear that from once or twice a month by phone, often if anyone inside her talk. Oh, yeah, that. Also, since Yvonne is still in a neck brace, she won't be doing much baking on her own. Ramona won't be interested in baking. In fact, Daniel, her significant other, it's a different Daniel, of course, that's in New Jersey. So Ramona lives in New Jersey. In fact, Daniel, her significant other, does the cooking. I wish they would get married, as they have been together for years, but I think it has to do with cut in Social Security. You know, they've been together for a few years. That's another Daniel. Just, the Grateful Eight will never have to take such things into consideration. But it's a shame how insurance can affect what people do or don't do. There's no way that Dan and Pam can get married until she finds work after graduation this year, and they'll only have job supplies, health insurance. It's just a reality of life for some people. Dan still is working for the Giants radio station, but it's part-time and no benefits. And then she writes yet again about the Giants winning the World Series. It is slightly different, though. Dan could barely contain his joy when the Giants won the World Series. The playoffs were exciting, and after each win, we would call and phone each other and whoop it up. I'm the one that got him hooked on the Giants, except that he's now a much bigger fan than I am. I've even been known to skip a telecast or two. Heresy in Dan's eyes. But the baseball strike in 1994 burst the bubble for me, as I realized more fully that it was just a business. Dan was working the night that won the series, the radio station walking distance from the ballpark. So as soon as the crew got off shift, they headed there for an all-night party. I drove the family, including Donovan, to the train to attend the Giants' victory parade in San Francisco. There was no way for them to drive themselves there, as originally intended, because the freeways were totally jammed with other cars also trying to get there. Even the line to the train was blocks long. Even the line to the train was blocks long, and I hung around for a while because I wasn't sure they got on board, and I didn't want to have to turn around and come back for them until the parade was over. But it turns out they had put on extra trains. They phoned me when they got aboard, and I drove home happy to have my TV front row seat. They ended up about 25 rows back and had to later watch on the DVR to see to see everything. If I'd made an attempt to see everything, you couldn't really see them. Then Dan cajoled me into the use of my backyard for another Giants celebration that followed Saturday night. I tried to get out of it, so you're saying at Martha's or even Pam's folks' yard, but Dan claimed they were much too small. I had a large backyard by California standards, but that's only because yards are postage stamp sized. Another part of Dan's argument for the party was, Grandma, when are the Giants ever going to win another World Series? We both thought about it for a second, and then said simultaneously, well, next year. That broke me up, and we knew that he may have had a harder time convincing me for the next party, though, because I'm still encountering orange and black hunks of crepe paper here and there. He promised to clean up after the party, and spent time doing that, but it has been raining a lot here, and dry days, that's our excuse. And the dry days in Dan's very busy schedule don't often coincide, plus he lives 20 miles away with Pam's folks. I hope this living arrangement can continue, although Pam's family is moving soon an additional 25 miles off. Often Dan and Pam stay overnight at Martha's, especially if one of them has an early morning class or shift. I'm starting to feel guilty about my 3 spare rooms. They're sleeping on a mattress in Martha's living room. Actually, Ian was. Ian is moving out, or this weekend. This is December 9th. And Martha's asked, and yeah. Adam turned 40 the end of November. My baby's 40. And all of my stepchildren are over 60. That's a sobering thought. I'll be 75 in February. Most days I just can't believe it. Nor do I feel it. Again, most days. I think the blackjack is keeping my marbles rolling. Adam desperately wanted a surprise party for his 40th birthday, like Martha had, but it couldn't happen, much as I would have liked to have arranged for him. Martha is outgoing and popular, and Adam has Asperger's. He doesn't have 3 very solid friends. 2 from back in high school days. Oh, he does have 3 very solid friends. 2 from back in high school. I popped him for a meal at the steakhouse for them. I went to a casino for the night. The casino comped me a free room, and it was elegant, so they came back here for the cake. One of the guys is diabetic, so I made a separate cake for him, using Splenda. He loved it, and Adam insisted he'd take the rest home. I think Adam was afraid I'd feed it to him. I kind of wished they'd left a piece for me to try. It was a carrot cake that I got off the internet. It looked good. Your lucky necklace didn't work the casino trip. I think they tightened up the machines to pay for the spiffy new hotel. I will give the casino one more chance next month before I take my business elsewhere. So the friends were John and Jim and Tim. Yeah, original cast. Like her group, the Mary Jean and Casey and Catherine and the Toys and them. The Adam clique is John, Jim, Tim. Executive producer John, March Cards on the internet. Same guy. Yeah. So your lucky necklace did not work this casino trip. I think they tightened up the machines to pay for the spiffy new hotel. I'll give the casino one more chance next month, where I take my business elsewhere. Even the blackjack dealer managed to beat my 20s, with 21 several times. Now that's irritating. How the hell did he do that? I'd be cheated. The hotel even had the fancy new coffee machine in the room. It begins with a K, but you put it in one little cup of Keurig, and you do like Starbucks quality coffee in 3 minutes. If you don't have one yet, get Santa Claus to gift you one. I can't wait to get the nice long letter that you promised me to find out. To find out how everyone is, especially Teddy, who we learned you guys are traveling next month. Will Shillong be with you? What a wonderful experience for you guys to get that much exposure to another culture. Yes, that goes for you and Mike also. It's great that you can do that. It must take a lot of arranging. Also picking up new what happened to recall from the wedding. Also, please tell me what happened. Recall from the wedding. I love the computer pictures. Since Nicole had been around for a while, this is one of the Galinsky girls, one of the nieces, got married. One of the niece's daughters got married, and that's what this is the wedding she's referring to. Yeah. Since Nicole has been around for a while, so I imagine that Rosie felt more like she was gaining a daughter rather than losing a son. So, yeah, Rosie's son got married. Yeah. And Nicole seems very nice. I hope that her mom's chemo will be successful and not too debilitating. I'm only in my first 6th batch of Christmas cards, so I have to choose one and get to the rest. I'm so behind that I've decided to write them in batches of 6, meaning that even if I don't get another card out for whatever reason, like the post office gets shut down or I break both arms and can't type, these are the 6 top people to get the Christmas cards. You and your sisters will always make the list, although Dorothy almost got bounced into the second 6 tier this time because I never hear from her. But I have rethought that. I have a couple other people in my life like her that seldom write. And when plans or chance come to back together again, it's comfortable and very easy to go from where we left off. That counts for something, but I'll leave it enough alone. I intend to read an interesting article on SAD. They put aside you and given up on the turning it out since enough... Oh. That counts for something, so I will leave well enough alone. I've read an interesting... That counts for something, so I'll leave well enough alone. I have read an interesting article on seasonal affective disorder that I put aside for you, but I've given up on turning out soon enough to put it into the card. So I will send it along later when it surfaces. Have the best Christmas yet. Sounds from the TV like it's going to be a white Christmas, if your weather stays as it is. That's the end of that one. Ooh, that's the end of that one. That's the end of the last one. We're going to go on a little longer here. Just a little longer. Janice and Tom. The card will remind you what snow looks like, in case you haven't seen enough of it. Ron tells me they have been snowed in at least a couple of times already. Your last email sounds as though you were also in the middle of the Christmas hassle. I have barely started my cards. I'm going by 6s and have chosen the top 6 people that I really want to write to. The post office goes broke and closes its doors, or I fracture both my arms and can't type. At least those cards will go out and I won't need to worry about the rest. Congratulations, you have made the first tier. If I keep it up without interruption, I'll get the second 6-pack by tomorrow. 6-pack of cards, that is. Although the other kind of 6-pack is starting to sound good at this point. Beer. She wasn't really into beer so much. We and the Giants, thank you for your support. I don't remember if I told you that already, but we finally, even Donovan, went to the Giants celebration parade in San Francisco. Oh, some of them did. And they planned to drive, except that the freeways were clogged, with everyone else trying to get there. Some people camped out all night. I drove them to the train. The line of the train was blocks long. I hung around the nearby Starbucks until they phoned me that they'd actually gotten a seat. And the train station is in the next town, and I didn't want to have to turn around and pick them up before several hours hence. Once they were aboard, I went home and enjoyed it on the television. They ended up about 25 rows back, and later looked at the DVR for a better appreciation of the happening. But the celebration itself was lots of fun, they said. Ian is moving out, but he bought a house in Milpitas for the sake of the kids. He's still coming to Sunday dinner, too. I asked him if he told his folks yet, and he said that maybe he would call them tomorrow. I usually send them a Christmas card, and maybe once they knew that the divorce was sure, that he'd be in the end of that, and I can save an 80-cent stamp. I'd just say that because they first got married, Dan was about 10 or 11, and the package from England never included anything for Dan. I'm assuming because he wasn't considered really family. She's bitter about the grandkid not getting a present the first year. It's kind of messed up. Ha-ha! But yes. She wrote to him later. When you're a little kid, that hurts, but Ian would never think of cluing on his parents, although he himself has treated Dan decently. However, I can see where Ian acquired his lack of social skills. Sometimes I think Ian has Asperger's, in a worse case than Adams has. Talk about a cold fish. I'm sad about the divorce, but I wouldn't want to be married to him either. At the time, Martha was into so much BS that it looked very good. At least he didn't drive a Harley and wasn't covered with tattoos and believed in working for a living, unlike some of the other ones that she brought home for over the years for us to meet. Things change. Grateful we survived Martha's growing up. I will leave that in there. I did put a hex over about that. But I can take it back. I wished that she had twin girls, and they'd both be 16 at the same time, and behave as she did. Sarah at 13 is pretty involved with the church, and I'd be worried. I'm worried anyway. She's too adult for her years, too good-looking, too smart, and of course knows everything there is to know about anything important. Nothing adults do fails in important category. Nothing adults do falls into the important category. I don't think I have the energy to do it again. My baby has turned 40. All of my stepchildren are over 60. That wouldn't make anybody feel old. But I'm doing okay. I credit Blackjack with keeping my marbles rolling. Adam has a few friends over for his birthday, one of whom was diabetic, so I made him a Splenda carrot cake. It's one of the Splenda websites. His friend told Adam that it was wonderful. Adam sent him home with both the recipe and the rest of the cake. I think Adam was afraid I'd make him eat it. Actually, I wanted to try it. It looked good. But I obtained a free room at a casino 2 hours away. The casino... that's the line. The casino near Sacramento had just opened The casino near Sacramento just opened a new hotel. Been watching them build for years, and I couldn't resist the comp. The casino... Oh, let me do this again. I think Adam was afraid that I'd make him eat it. Actually, I wanted to try it. It tasted good. And then she should have broken the sentence and said, well, I obtained a free room at a casino that just got built 2 hours away. The casino near Sacramento had just opened, and a new hotel, and I watched them build it for years. I couldn't resist the comp, especially since I didn't have to drive back and forth the same day. The room was elegant. Soft lights were on when you entered, and there was a beautiful scene floating in a huge flat-screen TV. There was a phone in the toilet stall, as well as 2 others in the room. Crikey. I remember that casino. We had crab. Everything was a thick feather bed. It was all-you-can-eat buffet. Everything was a thick feather bed, flat pillows, and each bed. The bed was not comfortable. The beds. There were 2 beds. One of them sucked. That's how I recall. Because it was too soft. The lighting went on when you opened the closet door, and 2 terry cloth robes were hanging for you to use there. And there was a note on them saying that if you wished to buy them, exposed to just using them, $100 would be added to your tab. There wasn't just an old coffee jar, but one of those fancy ones where you insert the cup, and 3 minutes later you have a Starbucks quality brew. Actually, Starbucks coffee is kind of gross. But yes, it was called a Keurig. This is the birth of the Keurig generation coming up. The coffee makers. Back to the toilet. The toilet paper was made into a little point so that you didn't have to fumble. I've seen that before. The spare roll was unwrapped and made into a point. What the hell? What the heck? It's weird. The elevator had a key card so that nobody got off your floor except you, unless, of course, somebody got off. You did. But you can't have everything, right? The downside was that they had tightened up the video poker machines to pay for the hotel. Even the dealer kept getting 21 to my 20. Doesn't seem likely. The casino did the same thing when they first opened up without the hotel. But they eventually became pretty good at payouts. In fact, it's one of my favorite casinos. That must be new management, having to learn the same lesson again. People just quit coming if they can't win. Well, I know this will be a tough Christmas. I'm glad that you have plans and hope winter cooperate. Well, I know that this will be a tough Christmas. I'm glad you all have plans, and I hope that the weather will cooperate. I will be thinking of all. Here's a letter to Moni. Thank you, Moni. Next is Moni. Moni. I wanted to send this to you because you liked it so much when you were here, and it doesn't count for exchanging presents, so do not sweat that. It was frozen when I packed it, so it should count for 1 day at least of keeping it fresh en route. With priority mail, you should get it in 2 or 3 days. I know it stays longer than that. Enjoy. The one I sent to Robert and Yvonne will not have any nuts in Yvonne's half because of her diverticulitis. I'm sure that Yana will accomplish just putting nuts in half of it, but I will figure it out, so it's the brownie thing. Robert emailed me that Yvonne will be off work for 6 months. I'm not sure if that means 6 months more, or if it's including how long she's already been off. I assumed the former when I answered him, so they'll probably correct me if I misinterpreted, and I hope I did. I don't imagine her employer will be too thrilled. They are not supposed to discriminate, but they can usually find a legal way. Robert also said that he's concerned about her using his car, because in his opinion she's a terrible driver. I think she's a nervous driver, which probably qualifies her as a terrible driver, which is why it's so hard to believe that she fell asleep while driving. If Yvonne is really going to be off for another 6 months, Perhaps Adam and I will take another drive up there when the snows are over. I thought that we couldn't do our regular Christmas, even this year, because Fridays are Dan's regular work shift at KMBR. But he said last night that he thinks that he can get off an earlier than 9 p.m. So perhaps he can have a late candlelight ceremony and work it out. So that's at the church candlelight. Of course, for me, I don't enjoy being up past 9 p.m. Usually, so I just take a nap, mainly in the afternoon. So I get up around 4 or 5 a.m., having been conditioned for 20 years for early rising for work. Well, if you go to sleep at 9, you wake up at 5. Lisa phoned and told me how to see Amanda's Christmas performance, with a live feed on the computer. She was a shepherd. It was very well done, and Amanda was thrilled that Adam and I could watch her. I even stayed for the sermon because I was afraid there would be a pop quiz. Robert tried to watch it, but lost his live feed and said not to tell Lisa. I hope you enjoy the pictures. I know Aaliyah, that's the granddaughter, might not appreciate the Giants picture. I imagine that most of the pictures are the Facebook kind. This Facebook thing that's started. And I do like your own. That Facebook reference. Yeah, cute Facebook reference. Cute Facebook reference. Sean. December 14th. John and Marty. Hope this message finds everyone healthy and happy. How is the new job going, Marty? I was so glad for you when I heard about it from the folks. Let's hope that a picture is still worth 1,000 words, because I'm so behind with my cards that I don't have time to write many words of my own. When I retired, I thought that I would have infinite time before me to get what I wanted to do. But each Christmas seems to get worse, and I really don't know how I squeeze employment into my schedule at the time. This is mainly because the kids live so close, and I'm dragged into all of their doings and problems. Bob used to say that that's why people move to Florida, not so much for the weather, but to get out of reach of their kids. Martha and Ian were getting divorced. They're keeping it civil for the sake of the kids. He even comes to Sunday dinner. I'm like Grandma Leone, except I don't serve spaghetti every time. I expect him on Christmas. We're a strange family that way. When we visited our granddaughter in Michigan, Robert's daughter Lisa, we would stay at the home of Robert's ex-wife. And we still exchanged Christmas cards. And she, her present husband, present husband, they got married in the 80s. So present husband, yes. She and her present husband, another Robert Ragsdale, visit us when they come to see his son in California. So he has a son in California, the name of Richard Ragsdale. Different Richard from the other Richard from the family. We should show Congress how to get along, right? I don't have enough Sky Miles to attend Rosemary's son's wedding in October. I didn't have enough Sky Miles to attend Rosemary's son's wedding in October. I know that your mom was disappointed, and I promised to come in the spring. Do you have any plans to go see your mom this summer, John? This is, of course, John Corpy that she's writing to. John. If you do, I can possibly make it out to Arlington Heights to see. Yeah. So she's writing to the Corpys, yes, and they are cousins. It's not the John that's Yvonne's son. It's different person, older person. It's different. Do you have any plans to go see your mom this summer, John? That is Anne. Gonna go see Anne, basically. Anne's their mom. John and Don Corpy mom. See Anne. If you did, I could possibly say as far as If you did, I could possibly make it as far as Arlington Heights to see Bob's family, and then hitch a ride with you to Duluth. We could split the gas. Let me know if that's even possible. There must be a bus or something from Arlington Heights to Zion. Do you have Donald's address? That's his brother. June said that they weren't doing Christmas cards, so I'd like to send me one anyway. They promised to email eventually. Speaking of emails, I've enjoyed the ones you've sent to me because you pick good ones. I'm checking the computer more often these days, although not necessarily every day, and I didn't sit glued to it like the kids and grandkids do 5 minutes after getting it into the house. Or else they have something stricken in their ear that they're concentrating on. Or else they have something sticking in their... Okay, I'm reading this again. I'm checking the computer more often these days, although not necessarily every day. I don't sit glued to it like the kids and grandkids do 5 minutes after getting into the house. Or else they have something sticking in their ear that they're concentrating on. Let me read that again. I'm checking the computer more often these days, although not necessarily every day. I don't sit glued to it like the kids and grandkids do 5 minutes after they get into the house. Or else they have something sticking in their ear that they're concentrating on. Or they're sending a text. None of the above are my favorite forms of socializing. I wanted to get that line out. Okay. Last Christmas was a bummer, but we're doing better this year. The tree isn't, however. The cats have taken it down. Twice! It's a table model, so I now have it on top of the TV armoire. The vets tell me they love to chew plastic, and I have the vet bill to prove it. When one day I noticed a long plastic string hanging out of the ass of one of the cats, I gave it a yank, which turned out to not be the right thing to do. I thought about getting a real tree, but something told me that they climb them also. That brings me to me a joke that my mom laughed about when she heard it. Cats, the other white meat. Kitty, the other white meat. She hated cats, but Adam loves his Abra and Cadabra. We have both black cats sitting in the picture window on Halloween, so they're finally good for something. So what happened is, Cadabra got a hold of the outer edge of the Thanksgiving ham, and she ate the ham and with the plastic outer edge into her digestive tract. The little cat is like 7-8 pounds. The tiny little cat, and passed this enormous thing all the way through her digestive tract. That's what was sticking out of her. She had to pass it. Ooh, poor kitty. Diane, I don't like chain letters, and I don't send them on. But, the fallen soldier was beautiful and special. And I did send it on. Thank you for all of your many emails. I'm sorry that I hadn't been in better contact this year. I've thought of you often and wondered about how you're getting along. Really not into computing. Did not get the joy of them that everyone else in the family seems to get. They aren't here 5 minutes before someone asked to borrow my laptop. And they aren't doing that. And when they aren't doing it, if they aren't doing that, they're sending a text or talking on their cell phone or listening to something stuck in their ear. This is not my idea of socializing, which just proves, I guess, that I'm getting old and crabby. Well, I'll be 75 in February. I can't believe it myself. As you can tell from the picture, the Giants winning the World Series was big stuff around here. Grandson Danny works part-time for the Giants radio broadcast station in San Francisco. He really wants to be a broadcaster someday and feels that his job is afoot. Maybe a toe in the door. Right now, he mostly puts the commercials where they are supposed to be, but is a junior college, and he's working. And right now, he mostly puts on the commercials where they're supposed to be. And then, but he's in junior college, working. Part-time again toward a degree in communications, and does the play-by-play on the radio of the football games. He's quite good at it, and sounds like he's been doing it for all of his life. I wish that I could remember when I wrote you before. If I'm repeating myself, please forgive me. Your Dan and his girlfriend Pam are living here. Now they are with her parents. Thank God. I see a lot of them, and they always attend Sunday night dinner here, but I think Pam just got lonesome for her mother. Yes, it's kind of funny that Mom's kind of a recovering Catholic, so that's why that's in there. She's obviously kidding. Adam and I are praying that it continues to work out with our folks. For insurance reasons, they still can't get married. We don't need to go over that. Did I tell you that they renamed a city park after Bob? It's close to the house, and I miss him more every time I drive past the big sign that says Robert E. Browne Park. The mayor wanted to call it Bob Browne Park, but we once had a city manager who turned out to be a crook, and his name was also Bob Browne, but not with an E. Yes, even Robert Burrell mixed that up, and said the other guy. I fixed that in the director's cut. Told Robert Burrell. Director's cut of that movie, Millby's Monster. That's not the right word, Brown. It's one of the E. You gotta change that. And in read the Milpitas Historical Society, Brown with an E is a different guy. No. In fact, Bob was mayor at the time and ended up being the one who fired the guy. A couple of times people have gotten the names mixed up, and I wanted to make sure that they didn't happen with the park. I'm behind with my cards, so much close. I'll try to do a better job of keeping in touch next year. Tick, tick, tick. Kim, I thought of you often. As I so often, my act is finally coming together, and I want to stop and tell you how much the wonderful letter that you sent me after Uncle Bob died meant to me. I'm keeping it always, and it never fails to make me misty-eyed just reading it. Thank you for your kind observations about the life of Uncle Bob and I shared. Thank all of you Mossbergers. I felt welcome from the start. I feel so close, even closer than my blood family in Duluth, even though I'm still very connected to them. The family has kept me busy. Most of the time that's okay, but I have my moments. Uncle Bob used to say that retired people don't go to Florida for the weather. That is, they go to get away from their kids, their various problems and needs. She kind of said that earlier. Yes. But what can I say? I'm the soft touch who spoiled them. One thing they do have straight is that I needed my gambling getaways at least monthly. For me, it's cheaper than shrinks. Even when he was bedridden, Uncle Bob knew this, and always insisted that I go for the day once in a while. Of course, today's problems are less urgent, as they are certainly noisier. Adam didn't inherit it. Of course, today's problems are less urgent, but they are certainly noisier. Danny didn't inherit too much of my half-Italian blood, but he's very dramatic and has the worst of my life day every least once a month. He can become exhausted. Those on the sidelines. Okay. Of course, today's problems are less urgent, but they're certainly noisier. Danny didn't inherit too much of my half-Italian blood, but he's very dramatic and has the worst day of his life at least once a month, and that can become exhausting to those on the sidelines. On the other hand, he's witty and funny and warm, and I love him to pieces, which is easy to do now that he and Pam have moved on to their parents. Adam and I should make a novella. Do you think that Protestant novellas count? Do they all continue to get along? Shit. This is in 2010, in December. It says, Adam and Dan do not get along, so it's pretty tense when they lived here. I know that Adam is weird, but he has a diagnosis to explain that. And Dan and Martha keep expecting him to act normal, and they're not prone to be very understanding about that when he doesn't. I tried to educate them on autism and Asperger's, but it doesn't seem to help. It really worried me. It happened if Adam. What happens to Adam if I die? Maybe they will step up to the plate, and maybe they will make his life miserable. Both. I've done what I can do to ensure his financial security. I got desperate enough with the situation of Dan and Pam when they were living here to think about Yvonne's invitation to move to Vancouver. Yvonne and Adam have always gotten along well, possibly because Yvonne's son Johnny has problems too. I'm no shrink, but I think he has autism also. It's even worse than Adam's. I think for both Yvonne and Johnny, he has found the niche. He lives on his own in an apartment near work and doesn't drive, and has some sort of piecework job, which he doesn't mind, in fact likes. Yvonne takes him grocery shopping once a week. When he lives in a home, Yvonne almost went crazy because they were at odds constantly. So it's a great arrangement for both of them. With 2 college degrees, even though the disability people don't make Adam apply for piecework jobs. So Johnny has a job. Johnny is actually OCD. It's a little bit like Asperger's. It's OCD and PSTD. The OCD and PSTD. PSTD from his stepfather was a dick, and that's aside, and OCD is OCD. It's like autism, but with 2 college degrees, even the disability people don't think Adam should apply for piecework jobs. They know to drive him to distraction. Even McDonald's and gas stations require multitasking. People with Asperger's can handle only one thing at a time. Surprise and schedule changes throw them. College was structured, and Adam knew what to expect, so he did okay there. I know that this is a hard concept to grasp unless you live with it. Martha and Jan just don't believe that he can't do something in the line of work, and give him grief about it. Yvonne had many health problems herself. She has a neck brace and can't work for 6 months. It's probably more than that. Falling asleep while driving and hitting a pole. At last year, she had those grand mal seizures, which never really been diagnosed. I think she had a seizure and crashed. I don't think it was a... Yeah, I think Mom's right about that. She didn't fall asleep. She had a seizure. Which is why you shouldn't be driving if you have those. Robert is in terrible shape. Emphysema and still puffing away. He likes smoking. It's the only fun thing he has left, so screw it. Robert is still living, believe it or not, aside. I haven't spoken to him in many years, but he's still around. It's been 6 or 7 years, but still around. Maybe Adam would end up being the one helping them. No. For now, I'm grateful that Yvonne and Robert live together and can help each other. Now that Yvonne has those 2 darling grandchildren, Rachel's kids, Kale and Ava, there's no chance of her moving down here. She once was considering. Erica ended up moving down here. She got her daughter. No, that's not mentioned here, but that's an aside. Well, enough about problems. Let's talk about fun. I'm really looking forward to seeing your grandparents in Vegas next month. I know your mom, and probably the whole family, is concerned about their snowbirding this year. On the other hand, it keeps them going. Interested. Adam is already pestering me about wanting to come along because he feels really close to your grandma, or Aunt Martha. But I have told him that I'm not sharing this time. Ken and Emily were nice enough to me last trip, but there's so little time to get together that I don't want distraction. Tell your mom that I'm not sure that I can keep Adam at bay when they go to Vegas at the end of February, but I will try. On the other hand, it depends on how much money I win or lose before then. It's cheap to drive to Vegas in my Prius, but I wouldn't do it alone. So when did it... Adam is no highway driver. No. But he can drive and would be able to summon help if I got sick or something. We will see how things go. I may be able to promise Adam an additional trip before the folks go back to Chicago, but I'm not sure that my budget can stand 3 stays in Las Vegas, unless I win, of course. You must be proud of Matt, that's your son. You should be proud of yourself, also, for doing such a great job raising him. It has always been easy. You're one of those people that I think it's easy to pick up on pieces. It couldn't have always been easy. You're one of those people that it's easy to pick up the pieces, despite time and distance on those rare occasions when we just get together. If you ever decide to vacation in California, I have a guest room. Just give me a heads up that I can shovel it out. You know that your mom is one of my favorite people. Probably acquired your social skills from her. Not that you weren't fully capable of developing them on your own, but genes may have given you a leg up. Have a wonderful Christmas, being only a few hour. Have a wonderful Christmas, being only an hour or so by plane. I will do my best to keep an eye on your grandparents this winter. Hi, Matt. I saw Kim in 2006 at the reunion. Kim did not know me from Robert. Thought it was Robert. She has no idea who these people are at all. Dear Casey. Oh, Casey. Merry Christmas to you and the family. I can't remember what I wrote last. I'm sure there's a way to access old emails, but I'm still asleep and can't help me with it. There's one page of old emails that I don't know how to get to, the ones that aren't showing. Please forgive me if I'm repeating myself on anything. It's almost not worth it to ask Adam. There's always a lot of muttering under his breath, which incidentally I can now hear because my hearing aid stopped recently. I was forced to do something and putting off. Phone Kaiser to get me some new hearing aids. Actually, she used Bob's, but they really didn't work. Years later, she had to replace them with good ones. I could tell from the pregnant pause at the other end of the line that this was not a usual request, but I reasoned that that's why you asked to donate old hearing aids if nothing can be done with them. Well, so, jumps to the Ian stuff. The connection isn't there. Okay, of Martha's ex-husband Ian. I don't think his accent should be that heavy after 17 years in the country. I suspect that he cultivated it, and even people with regular hearing say that he mumbles, but that's about all I have against him. He finally moved out last weekend and bought a home in Milpitas. He still comes on Sunday dinner, and I expect him on Christmas. These are civil divorces, are eerie. Give me a good job. Give me a good fight anytime. Indifference is far worse than hate. My baby has turned 40, and all my stepchildren are over 60. Or I'm starting to feel old. I'm flying to Las Vegas on January 9th, and Bob's sister and her husband will arrive there for their snowbirding trip, 4-month December trip. Yeah, this is quirky. I'm flying to Las Vegas January 9th, and Bob's sister and her husband will arrive there for their snowbirding, 4-month December 29th. Their daughter Judy is having a fit that they're going at all. As they started to say in October, I didn't notice any memory problems in Martha, that is, Aunt Martha, and might expect from somebody 87, except that each and every meal she would be surprised that I took my coffee black, and would go on to repeat how she just had cream and sugar. Also, we had to escort her to the bathroom, or she would get lost coming back, and I think that may have told you all that before. I'm going to have to wrap this up, and I still have more cards to do. I wrote finally to Jean Michel, but she's probably pissed that I ignored her packet all these years, and won't answer. I thought to try anyway. My life has just been too hectic. Bob's sick for so long. To get things that are not on the hot list. I'd love to hear from her again. I'm getting friendlier with my computer these days, although to me it is still a chore, and no way the entertainment and socializing appears to be for the rest of the world. What I'm trying to say is that your email, I have a chance to see it within a reasonable time frame. And meanwhile, have a great Christmas. So in Mom's clique, Casey was like John, like Mark's cards. John Yeager. Casey was the Mark's card. She was sort of the glue of the cast, keeping everybody from going bonkers. and sort of the lady with the cats is a little bit me, kinda. Yeah, kind of the high-strung lady with the cats. A lot of facts and figures. The lady with the cats, the Egyptian cats, Jean Michel. Also, she's definitely on the spectrum. Asperger's is not a new thing. That old 70-something lady, she had autism. She was autistic. Definitely. Definitely on the spectrum. She was definitely autistic. Yeah. Well, yeah. So here we are on the 17th. Yeah, these are Christmas letters that come out before Christmas. And there's a belated one, and the reunion is mentioned, but that's 2011. So here we have, yeah, the end of the story. This is an episode of a Christmas movie. Okay, Cheryl Black, something else. She was a former counselor. She got married. Cheryl Black, Cheryl something else now. Got married, moved away. She was a family counselor. She's writing to the family counselor. On December 17th, 2010. It's a Christmas letter. Cheryl. Succeeding holidays get a little easier. I hope this is true for you also. We're doing okay. I'm very behind schedule for Christmas. How I worked and managed Christmas at the same time is beyond my grasp now. The two big events of 2010 were the birth of Donovan Daniel on July the 2nd, and the Giants winning the World Series. Dan still works part-time for KMBR. His joy held no bounds when they won. We would phone each other after each game of the playoffs and commiserate or high-five over the cell phone. Fortunately, there was more of the latter. My babysitting has been minimal, less than an hour so far. Even better, they now live with their parents. Adam and I are hoping that this continues to work out. We set things often and nearly always Sunday night we have dinner. Here. The baby is adorable and they seem to be very conscientious parents. Nuptials, they happen, are held at bay by lack of health insurance coverage. That's the story. Yeah. Pam and the baby are included in her parents' policy. She graduates from San Jose State this June, and hopefully will land a job with benefits. Ian and Martha were getting a divorce. It's civil. In fact, Ian still shows up each Sunday for dinner, and I expect him at Christmas. I think indifference is worse than hate. Give me a good battle any day. I'm afraid that when one of the other of them meets someone else, I will just be expected to put another leaf in the table. That's kind of what happened. The children seem to be adjusting to the situation, okay? My chief hobbies these days are cooking and gambling. Plus, I always have a murder mystery that I'm reading. The family gets to vote up or down on the new recipes that I'd like to try each Sunday. A downvote means don't cook it again, or modify it radically. Either way, I have to eat it. I love video poker and blackjack. The latter keeps my marbles rolling. I usually go to a casino near or far. Mostly, I'm looking forward to a trip to Vegas next month where I meet up with Bob's sister Martha and her husband, the Aunt Martha. I hope you read the newsletter this year and that you will send me a copy. You should get them published. The part about the yard sale inspired me. Not to action necessarily, but now cleaning my garage is on the list. It's currently a hard hat zone. Your boys sound like they're doing great. Have a wonderful Christmas. Hopefully that 2011 is extra good to you. Love, Victoria. Oh no, Kathy and